Good afternoon and welcome to the Pleasure for Health podcast. My name is Ailsa Kepi and I will be your host for today's discussion of what actually happens in a somatic intimacy session. And this is a question I get asked pretty much every time a new client comes to talk to me about booking a session, about coming to see me. This is their main question. What happens in a session? What can I expect? What kind of things are possible? Is it okay to ask for something I really want? How do I bring up, something that seems taboo or seems too out there to ask a practitioner for? All of these questions come up when I have anyone come to inquire about somatic sex education or somatic intimacy sessions. So I thought I would just take the time today to just hash out a little bit of what I would normally say to somebody and what we could expect if you were to book in with a somatic intimacy coach or an educator. So really, the what actually happens in a session really depends on a couple of things. It depends on the practitioner. It depends on what the practitioner is able to do and is willing to bring to the table. And sometimes different practitioners have very different backgrounds that they bring to this work. It's quite a broad scope of practice as a somatic sex educator. Everything from coaching, which would be more of a verbal, talk it through, come up with ideas, educate you on ways to make your sex life more healthy or more fun and exciting, or to bring in, let's say, more kink aspects to your relationship. Maybe you've had more of a trauma background. My particular interest in doing somatic coaching is more with people that have pretty severe trauma, or trauma that is affecting their ability to be in relationship. So I do get a lot of people coming to me with the relationship issues is kind of where it starts coming up for them. So they may have been dealing with their trauma with a counselor, with a psychotherapist, or a psychiatrist even, and they've worked through some of their trauma that way, either with a verbal kind of talk therapy, or they may have done EMDR, they may have done some other types of therapy to kind of look at their trauma. But what happens when they get in an intimate relationship is they start realizing, oh, I need to do some other work here to start having real results and get to a place where I can be in a relationship and have trust, have the ability to be intimate with someone and not run away either inside or outside, without causing conflict, without having severe anxiety come up. So often I would get someone that would come to me with those types of issues as they begin to try to date or try to find a partner. And they realize that even with all of their talk therapy or all of their previous therapy, they haven't managed to deal with this severe kind of trauma that has become a relational issue. So they really have trouble being in a relationship. So for me particularly, this is my interest. I do have many colleagues that take different areas of interest and might work differently. So, often one thing I do provide is one way to get in connection with other professionals that may be able to offer different aspects of an intimate, issue with relating or sexuality. I can sometimes put people in touch with other practitioners that might work specifically with other things like kink or polyamory, or being, queer or gender diverse and needing support with that. So my particular interest is with trauma. It's often like a chronic PTSD kind of situation. I do have quite a good background in both bodywork and myofascial release, and also in somatic psychology. So I've trained in both of those areas as well. So I bring a lot of my work from that aspect to the work with relationships. And so I would say that a lot of times my clients are looking for a place to practice relating to another person in a little more intimate way than you might find with a friend or a family member or something like that. And by that, I might mean, so if you came for a session, often we'll have a consult, either in person or online to start with, and just kind of get clear about what we're working with and what kind of things might be helpful. And a first session often is really looking at, well, what is your relationship to touch? What is your relationship to other people? Can you stay grounded and present and in your body while talking to someone else, let alone relating on a more intimate level? So often, I get clients in and they're pretty nervous about just even sitting down and talking about their relationships or talking about their sexuality or talking about maybe they have something that doesn't work properly, or they have pain during sex, or sexual dysfunction in some way that they're concerned about. So we'll sit down and talk about that, and I'm always assessing, can this person stay present while we're talking about this? And if I notice their energy gets pretty anxious or up in their head, then what I'll bring into the session is some somatic practices, and that means breathing. That means taking a moment to feel your feet. That might mean getting up and shaking your body, or moving around the room, or noticing some other things. How is your body feeling right now? Oh, my shoulders are really tight. Let's do some shoulder rolls, and let's maybe do a little bit of stretching or moving around and feel back into our body. And then we might come back to the topic that we were talking about. And I would say that a first session is quite a bit about that. What can you bring up in a discussion? And then how can we stay present to what our body is feeling when we're talking about this stuff? And, you might think, well, that's not very exciting. But the actual truth is, really, that is relating relationships all the way to having sex with a potential intimate partner. It's all about, can you stay present and be in relationship and be touching and be having this intimate connection while still having a connection with yourself? So really, we're working on that right from the first session. We just work on it very mildly, you could say. So we'll work on that, because in my way of working, I do not want to get in a situation where someone is not present and not really noticing what they're feeling and getting overwhelmed by going too quickly into anything more intimate, or a touch, or potentially taking clothes off and getting on the table or anything like that, which could happen. So that brings up, well, can I get, can you massage, can we work on body work, and what does that entail? And absolutely, sometime in the first few sessions, if a person is ready for that, there could be some touch work on the table. And it doesn't need to go quicker than the person's ready. There could be a fully clothed session where we just ask, where would your body like to be touched? And we might just touch a shoulder, we might touch a cheek, we might touch the foot, we might touch the knee, we might touch the pelvis, we might touch the belly. And typically, I try to keep someone away from just asking straight away for genital touch or something more intimate, because we have such an ingrained societal expectation that something intimate always includes the genitals, and it should always, kind of go right there. And a lot of times that just keeps us in our old patterns. And another thing that I really am trying to do with these first session or two is to break apart some of these old habitual patterns that we get into. So we're not just doing the same old that is getting you stuck in the first place. So we want to really notice, well, what actually does my body want right now? Maybe I just want a hug. Maybe I just want you to touch my hand. Maybe I just want to feel you stroke my hair. Maybe I just want you to hold my feet. All of these things are really necessary to get in touch with and allow our body to have all of the steps, that lead up to being intimate with someone. Because if you leave out the first 100 steps, you've missed out on so much pleasure, so much intimacy, so much knowledge and awareness of yourself, so much fun and connection with someone. So I like to help people to really slow down, to breathe, and to feel into what it is they actually want. And this can often lead into more discussion because many times people won't know what they want, or they don't think it's okay to ask for what they want. So, I'm no longer surprised that in the first session, lots of people will not even get to what they actually want from, a partner or from a session. They just are too embarrassed to ask anything. So, this is something we work with. Like, okay, so it's okay to ask, and I will say no when I don't feel that that's the right thing for right now or something that I want to do. And so this starts to build trust. It's interesting to notice that having someone say no to you, to your request, actually helps you trust them, right? So especially with people that have not had either their boundaries respected or had partners that were willing to be honest, this is a really great place to start. So I say to people, like, ask for whatever you want, but I'm most likely going to say no to quite a bit of it, at least at the beginning, because we have to build something here. We have to build trust. We have to build honesty with each other. And if you're just going to say yes to everything I say, like if I suggest to do something and you're going to say yes without really considering whether that is something that feels important to you, then I'm not going to trust that your yes is really a yes and that you will say no when you need to. And that is really a profoundly important piece of the work, that we get to a place where I trust that the client knows that they can say no and that they will say no, and that they can say yes and they can ask for things that they want, and that I can say no to them, and that can be okay. We can have a discussion about that. So many times I would say, different clients will ask for something pretty intimate, or pretty typically intimate, let's say. And I will often say, no, I don't feel that that's going to be really helpful right now, because I'm not feeling that that would be in my 100% consent. And the practitioner matters here too. Why? Because we're actually bringing the opportunity for the client to have a real relationship. Doesn't mean that we're going out or that we're going to talk outside of sessions, but we're going to have an honest relationship in the hour or 2 hours or 3 hours that we're together. This is going to be honest, and we're only going to do what feels really like the next best thing for everyone. And again, I would say that I also have to bring awareness for clients that the session is for them. This is a hard thing for people to wrap their head around, is that we're not having a relationship. Therefore, I'm not going to bring my needs and desires and wants into the treatment room. I'm going to be focusing on helping you discover your needs and wants and your desires, and we're going to work with that. And I will still be in consent or not to do each thing that we bring up and talk about, but it's not about, well, this is what I want. This isn't a two-way relationship. It's a one-way relationship with consent. And so that's an interesting thing to consider as well. And often, I've had clients, it's natural to develop feelings or to have desires with the practitioner, but that is the practitioner's responsibility to say, that's great. I'm glad you're feeling desire and we can work with that, but this is going to be for you. This practice that we're doing is about you acknowledging your desire and finding a way to work with it and move it and become familiar with it, so that when you go out in the world or back to your relationship or are looking to date, that you can bring it to an actual partner that you're going to hopefully find in the world. And if not, then this is a place to practice just being in relationship with yourself. So I think that's also really important to notice, is that sessions are not relationships. They're not two-way relationships where the client's trying to please me or anything like that. So really a lot of the first few sessions is building trust around saying yes and no, building trust around asking for things, and then also building this relationship where we're like, okay, what is the client, what do you want to work on? If you want to work on being able to be more intimate and more connected in your relationship, let's figure out some ways to work on building that skill set in your practice. That might mean sitting and doing some tantric breathing practices where we stay present with each other. Maybe it's staying present with touch and breathing. Maybe it's staying present when in your own body, when you're being touched and breathing and finding desire, but keeping it about your own body so that you can stay present with yourself and work with that to bring it to your own relationship. So that type of thing. For many traumatized clients, just being able to be present, if you dissociate easily, hopefully I'm pretty good at catching that. We sit with that. And if you dissociate, I'm just going to be there. I'm going to say, it's okay. I'm here. Let's take a pause. I'm right here. And let's just breathe together, look around the room, come back into your body. It's safe. Let's, take a little bit of time and see what was it that felt really overwhelming or overpowering for you and made you want to just dissociate or go out of your body. And sometimes it's something pretty neutral. I had one client that when you touched their head, that was really triggering for them, and they found that they couldn't really stay present. They went back into past experiences, nightmares, things like that came up for them. And we just said, okay, it's fine. I'm going to come back to sitting in front of you. We're going to just look at each other. You can see me. You can hold my hand if you want. And we're going to come back into your body. And then we're going to see, what else feels good right now to bring you back into the present moment. And going back and forth and being able to just work with that slowly is very helpful for clients in the context of going out and trying to have a relationship. Because if every time someone touches your head, you're dissociating, it's going to be difficult to have an intimate relationship with someone. You can tell them, well, don't do this and don't do that, but you never know when you're going to just find it really hard to stay present. So practicing that and saying it's okay when that happens and you're still here and I can just stop and slow down and breathe and wait. And maybe that's all we do in that session, other than just sit and have a cup of tea together and just chat, right? So there's many ways to kind of bring some awareness and really slow down the process of relating so you have a chance to practice. And that is really, up to pretty intimate level. For myself as a practitioner, I'm willing to go pretty far down the line with certain clients that really need that. But again, it would be a client that really wanted to work with themselves and staying present and acknowledging that desire and staying with it and not letting themselves, dissociate or just go into old patterns. So, clients can come and we can talk about this. And I would say part of the fun of somatic intimacy sessions is this creative co-collaboration that happens where we're going to talk about what we're going to do. We're going to talk about what the goals are, and then we're going to come up with a plan that feels good for the client, and also I'm in consent to help them with, and then we can work with that, and we check in regularly. I say to people, this isn't going to be like an encounter that you might have on a date, because we're going to keep stopping and going, so how are you feeling in your body, and what's happening for you right now? And are you still breathing? And can you feel your feet? All of these things we're going to stop and start a lot, because we're actually doing this as an inquiry, as an inquiry into who you are when you begin to be in touch with your erotic energy. So it's so interesting. I really love my work. It's very involved, and it's it's kind of like a slow motion opportunity to really get in touch with your eroticism. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'm definitely open for consults. That would be the first way to reach out to me, or looking at my website. I'll send you an intake form. It just includes things like, what do you want to work with? Are you finding you have low arousal? Are you finding you're attracted to people you don't think you should be? Are you having trouble with ejaculation or erection? Are you having difficulty connecting and staying in your body when you go on dates? Are you having trouble not getting angry when you meet new people and then suddenly you find out they don't agree with you about everything? Like, what is, what are you wanting to work with amongst all of that kind of thing? And just to kind of give me a sense of where you're starting from. And then after the consult, we'll either work online or in person. Obviously, online work is a lot more about discussing and coming up with the idea, and it'll be more a solo practice for you. Either I'll be witnessing or you do it on your own, and then we talk about it again and see what's coming up for you. In person, I can be more active in helping to create a scenario or create an experience for you that then we can talk about and integrate in new ways. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a more sense of what this entails. I do have some people that just ask questions like, well, can I just get a tantric massage? And what I would say to them is exactly what I've just been talking about, is that tantric massage has so many different levels of meaning to it. And there's so many different ways to practice Tantra. It could be everything from just breathing together, from being connected by doing your own self meditation, to doing something more intimate with someone. And so it's not actually super helpful to just put a label like, can I just have this? It really does require this kind of discussion. And that is how, like I said, how I assess where someone's at and how well they can stay present in their body as we talk about what it is they want and how they want to do it, and what their experience has been so far in life and what they would like it to be. All of those things, I really appreciate having the time and going slow enough to really talk about that. And, of course, not all talk. There's lots of things that happen, but I would say that out of a 1.5 hour, 2 hour session, probably half of it would be talking, either before or after or during. And then there would be a part of the session that would be the practice, or a couple of practices that we would decide on that would creatively make up the session. So please do reach out if you have any questions. I would love to hear your questions. Maybe I'll do another podcast about if there's an interesting question that someone comes up with. I hope this has been helpful for those of you considering somatic sex education, either with me or with another practitioner. And I look forward to hearing from you, and or I will see you again soon. I'm hoping to do another podcast episode soon. So thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.